was laughing as I was playing that. I'm sitting here going, nah. Like I should have it on here. I should have put it up like that. And I could have just jammed out to it the whole time. That's what I should have done. You know, it's production notes every single time. Hey, everybody. 5 Watt World Live is brought to you with the support of Ish Guitars, of course. I'll talk more about Ish later in the stream. I had such a good time doing the Guitars of Tony Iommi video. And actually, Angus is in the green room, and we were laughing because we were talking about how to pronounce that. And in an interview, I guess he had done it, but Angus said he probably learned it from Ozzy screaming it from the stage, you know, with the slurred and alcohol-induced slurriness of Ozzy Osbourne screaming out Tony Iommi's name. But I guess that's how he pronounces it. You guys can all tell me otherwise. We're going to talk Tony Iommi Tone today. The music in the intro that you were just listening to is actually the complete track that I chopped up and put throughout the video, of course, on the Guitars of. The music was written, played, and produced by our guest, Angus Clark. Angus, actually, at my urging, has done a video where he breaks down the individual references of that. And he'll give us a little taste of that today, but we're going to be heavily pushing that other video because it is a walk through Sabbath history, and that I just really was blown away. I have to confess, I had no idea the depth of Angus's knowledge. I had no doubt that Angus could do this, but I didn't know this was his thing. Like, this is just a complete Angus Clark thing to do the Sabbath history. And so I asked him to do this. It was the obvious thing to do. So we're going to do this today. I'm very excited to do this. BB Ninja is back moderating for us today. You can see him live there over in the chat, being the moderator to the stars that he is. Not that I'm a star, but he's the guy. We're glad to have him back. He's modding. Watch for his answers to questions in the chat. As I always say, we have yet to stump the BB. So he's always on target. I'm currently working on a short history of Mosrite guitars. And I'm trying to think of the angle to do that. So if you have ideas, put them in the comments for me. I can always use the help. There's such cool guitars, and I specifically am interested in doing it because they go all the way from the Ventures all the way to, it's sort of a studio secret weapon. They had very high output, single coil, big fat pickups, and a lot of heavy music was recorded using them. And of course, the Ramones in between. So I'm having fun writing that script right now. So before we really dive into the real deal, excuse me, doing my Woody Allen impression here. I'm going to bring Angus in, add to the stream. There we are. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here. Good to be seen.
Yeah, there we go. We were already having too much fun. I said, oh, you got to tell that story again. Oh, you got to tell that story again. So we'll do our best to tell all those stories again, boys and girls. So we're gonna do the airs of tone. We're gonna do them in order, well, probably not. We'll probably bounce all over, but we're gonna start at the beginning and do our best to stay on track. That's my job. I will try to get your questions. Remember, if you have a specific question, I will try to pull them over and do the MC thing. But remember, put at 5 Watt World. I'm sure BV was recommending it. Paul Crane's already telling me how to write my Mosrite script. I got that part, Paul. He says start with semi, working at Rickenbacker. Absolutely will. Anyway, so put your questions over there. And Brighton summed it up for us. A guy named Angus played an SG. LOL. Hi, there we go. So Angus is the perfect guy for both these videos. So let's start with the first record. And we're going to have the fun of going through Angus's his guitar projects, like I said, without completely stealing all the content from his other video. We're going to have teasers of the stuff, the guitars he's put together for it. So on the first record, it was
the monkey guitar. Maybe didn't have a monkey sticker on it yet.
Well, and then there's the story that I actually in the comments, people said, oh, it's ridiculous because the way I read this stuff, the research I had said he actually had a right-handed SG Special. And then after the recording of the first record, he ran into a guy who was a right-handed guy, had a left-handed Special. I'm like, that story feels like Billy Gibbons kind of level mythology. It's, like just on the street in Birmingham. He's like, hey, you want to try guitars? So they did that. But that's the story I heard, right?
Yeah, that's apparently the story. He had a right-handed one and found somebody with a left-handed version and traded it. And he actually went into the studio for the first record with the Strat that
right.
I think it's the white one that he's pictured playing with Jethro Tull.
Right, which started life as just a straight up burst.
And he painted it white. And if you've watched that Tull appearance, I'm pretty sure that it's to track. Like if
Oh,
you,
you mean it's
yeah,
not
if
live?
you watch it, I think it's like a live vocal over over track. But I'm happy to be corrected. But
No,
it's
I'm
one of
trying to.
those real. It's a Tull song that's on an album,
Right.
and it features mostly a slide guitar. I can't remember the name of that song. If anybody remembers the name of
Yeah.
that song, but I'm a huge Jethro Tull fan. I made an album in collaboration with a violin player who was in Jethro Tull for a short time, and they performed two of the songs that I wrote. So Jethro Tull's actually performed music that I wrote. That's one of my
There you go.
crowning
Your
achievements of
5 minutes
my
of fame. There you go. Right. So right, and somebody is saying, and BB is actually reiterating that yes, that's true that there was a his right hand. He did trade his right-handed for a left-handed. BB was probably there. BB is like throughout. He just knows all this stuff. It's incredible the depth. So it's good to get that. And what I'd heard was the bridge pickup failed on the Strat.
right.
That's what it's
And then he just went to the special,
right.
and you know, part of what so this guitar that I'm playing right now is featured heavily in the videos that I made, and it was a 2019 18 or 19 SG special reissue. It came with the regular wraparound bridge, and I replaced that with this
I'm gonna
pigtail, which
I'm gonna
is kind of
put
a
you.
tunematic version of a wraparound bridge, and so it's adjustable. It's a fully intonatable bridge, and just what I had never had a wraparound tailpiece bridge before on any guitar, and when I got this, just laying into muted stuff with the wraparound, I was like, oh wow, that's the ticket. Can't believe this is the first time I had a guitar that does that. So if you watch early footage, any footage of Iommi, you see his picking hand is so unique. I can't, you know, it kind of holds it in a loose fist, and it looks like he's really laying in. I don't know if he's picking that hard, but the sound he gets and the authority with which he downstrokes, particularly for the time at which he did it. Obviously, all downstroke guitar playing is gone to the nth level of intricacy now, but at the time he did it, the way he was doing it, you know, it's just like nobody else. It's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah. So the first record is the guitar. The whole first record is the SG upside down. And then going into the second record is the left-handed one, but unmodified is the whole second record, or is it
Um,
in
I
there?
I really don't.
Okay.
I don't know. I think the thing that we touched on earlier when we were talking about it was that those first two records were mostly done in the same studio
All right. This is
with
very cool. Yeah.
Tom Alam engineering, and who went on to Tom has a very diverse career, so he would have gone into done a lot of pop music subsequent to the Sabbath records because he was just the in-house engineer at that studio. But then he eventually was hired to do British Steel and um, Screaming for Vengeance, like, you know, those big Judas Priest records. And then he was actually brought back on maybe the most recent Judas Priest record in collaboration with um and people are gonna shoot me for not knowing the name of the guitar player producer who's also in Judas Priest now, but I'm just losing it right now. And really super talented, more modern engineer that collaborated with Tom Alam to make it kind of. But that's the sound on those first two records, and the thing that I've always noticed and loved about them is that you can hear that the band cut a track together, and then Tony cut one additional guitar on top of the band, and very often that the solo he played on that additional guitar is left up alongside the solo that was played on the version on the take that he did with the band. Both solos play at the same time. And with my metal band Daredevil Squadron on our record Out of the Sun, we actually did that on one of the songs. Me and Aurelian played solos at the same time in that very Tony Iommi style. I just love that. And I also did that on my solo album Your Last Battlefield. There's a song where I take the two solos at the same time. I you know, It's one of those things it doesn't make sense, but you grow up listening to it and you're like, I love this. I need to put it on my record.
This level of chaos is what I'm looking for.
Andy Sneap. Yes, Andy Sneap.
There you
Absolutely.
go.
Right. So
There you go.
Andy kind of co-produced with Tom Alam on the most recent.
Very cool. Very cool. So the other thing that you said that was interesting about that was that when they did those dubs, it had reverb only on the dubs.
Right. There's if you listen to this, there's some interview with Tom Alam or Alam, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, where they talk lovingly about the plate reverb they had at that studio or something. But then also it's particularly noticeable on Master Reality, if we jump ahead to Master Reality, which may have not been done at that studio because the production sound is very different. On Master Reality, you can definitely hear it. The guitar solo has a ton of reverb on it, and there's some point where, for whatever reason, maybe he made a mistake or something, they just pull the fader on it and suddenly the whole mix dries up. And you're like, what went away? It's like, oh, just that one guitar, because that one guitar had all the reverb on it. So yeah, if you move ahead to Master Reality, that's when he down-tuned the guitar significantly. But it's a much tighter sounding record than those first two records sound super open
and loose and like they're playing straight up live. And
yeah, the drums are much more open sounding.
Brighton wants to know if we would consider Master Reality the first record to contain chugging riffs.
Well, but is that not a chugging riff, right?
I guess the answer to that is no, Brian.
But there's chugging parts on every record. But I think there was, Children of the Grave is definitely a significant
full on chugging
riff. Yeah, right.
All right. Well, let's go back to talking about guitars and tone here. So he gets the left-handed Monkey, and Monkey is a special. So there's Monkey things in this guitar. There's old boy things in this guitar, and actually it's a good way to illustrate some of this stuff. So it's a special. So it's a dot neck. It's a bound neck. So that's why the guitar on your lap is that way. And it seems like we're to the pickup story, because the fact is that the big change probably in Monkey between the second and third records, it definitely around that time, was the change to John Birch pickups, right?
Yeah, so I think it's that and you pointed this out, the bridge pickup was rewound and covered, and then the neck pickup was a whole other pickup.
Right. It's actually I said to Angus that when we were kind of warming up earlier, that it's common to do for me to do a things I got wrong in the video section of the live stream. And I think I put on the screen synth plucks, and the pickup was called the Simplux pickup. All made up words, come to find out. So I just made up the wrong word. And so that was a straight up John Birch. And then he rewound the Gibson bridge and covered them the same with a metal cover. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'd have to see what those pickups look like to know. But what I do know about these pickups, which are these are the JD pickups that are modeled on John Birch pickups, later pickups, the old boy pickups.
Yeah, JD being John Diggins, who worked with John Birch back in the day.
And these are completely housed. Like this metal, this is not just a cover, like that's a housing, like it's all over the top and the bottom of it. So I don't know for sure what those single coil style ones have, but I know that the concept, what I read was that the concept was to try to isolate the pickup from noise. Because if anybody's listened to the Live at Last album, or any of the live recordings of Sabbath from those days, the first thing you hear in front of every song is it's
what do you hear, Angus? Do that again.
And it's just so signature. Just this squealing feedback before the note starts and anytime the band stops. So I don't know. They may have that same housing kind of principle, which but I don't know for sure. But that's how these are done. It's completely housed in this stainless steel. So you'd have to Dylan from Dylan Talks Tone would have to get out his Sawzall to get inside of it and find out what's going on.
And you got two rows of screws here. This is a humbucking pickup. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So the story, if you check out the other video, you hear the whole story. But if we move ahead to from Master Reality to Volume 4 was I know I mean I had all of those records pretty early on, but I had Volume 4 had the gatefold, and there's the picture of Tony in like a dashiki kind of shirt, and he's got the monkey guitar, and it has the dot inlays and the small pick guard and everything. And I was like, I need the guitar to look like that. But then he got, at what point did he get the Black John Birch guitar? I feel like it's like Sabotage or Technical Ecstasy,
Yeah,
something
yeah. It's like the
around
sixth or
there.
seventh record. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that guitar had these kind of pickups, which I think the idea was they were trying to get the same effect as having a rail by putting the screws as close to each other as possible, which is why it has 9 screws. It doesn't
Sure.
have 9 screws because of any kind of particular
Spacing
pickup
thing. Right.
spacing thing. It was just like, we want to, just have screws. And so eventually they went with, this became a rail pickup. But
Right.
on that original Black John Birch guitar, they're both 9 screw pickups. And so that's when I ordered these from JD, I made sure that they both had 2 rows of screws
So,
instead of the
so this is the perfect time to insert the story of ordering those pickups. because
so,
as you said, if people go from here to the JD website, they're not going to go. It's not like the Angus Clark pickup there. It's not obvious which pickups to get, right?
right. So if you go to the JD website, it is fairly bare bones. And but obviously he knows he makes that guitar, and I've seen a bunch of the photos of them and very happy customers and stuff like that. So it's definitely, if that's what you want to get, he's the guy to get it from. But all I wanted was the pickups, and I don't see where to order them. So I emailed, I think I just emailed, unless it was like Facebook cut them. I think it was an email. And I get an email back saying, yeah, you can order just the pickups. They cost this much. They take 4 months or 3 months or something like that. And so I said, yes, please, I'd like the order. And I think I got a short email back saying, okay, and then nothing. And then like a couple of months later,
It's
I
all
email,
email. It's
yeah,
not no FaceTime conversations, just back and forth.
and a couple of months later, and this is all with Andrew Diggins. A couple of months later, I write back and I say, "Yeah, how are these pickups coming along?" And I got the answer back that yes, we're just making the surrounds. They're, because they make these are custom as well.
Right, the bobbins,
The
yeah.
actual no the
Oh, the surround, because
mounting ring.
in the end, these are not the same size as P90s.
Right. It's
Right.
got its own mounting ring. It's a very heavy duty, heavy plastic, thick
Wow.
mounting ring that's made with. And there's no dimensions on the website or anything. And I had looked at YouTubes of other people who had used them, and but I couldn't really find out. So when they arrived, I quickly discovered that they don't actually fit in the P90 housing. And so when my tech got the guitar to put it all together, he had to kind of route down into it in order to make room for it. So anyway, I really like these pickups. And then I can do the,
Yeah, not too much of it.
right. I mean, I can. It's
It does all that.
yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. Were there any questions that came
Yeah, I got
in?
Bebe jumped in to say Master of Reality was recorded at Island Studios in London in 1971. Like I said, you can always count on Bebe. Let me go back and see if we've got some other things we need to touch on here. We're keeping caught up here. So
Oh, yeah. Somebody says Respective Riff says they have the JD Monkey pickups in a Gibson Special. It's modified. I will check that out. Based on, because I still, that's another project for me. Like if I were to get the lower end version of the Monkey guitar, like without all the aging on it and stuff like
the
that, I would
production one
probably,
that's like 2,300, right? Yeah.
yeah, I would probably get that and order the JD Monkey pickups and put in it. and I think that would complete the set. The set won't be. Everyone knows the set won't be complete until I route a white SG custom and put a Floyd in it.
Right, and then I come by and steal it.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it would be a complete set of Iommi guitars.
I should bring up just now that for those of you that are into this, that I had a great experience putting together this other guitar, which is a lower end SG special from like 2012, and the pickups in here do fit in the P90 routes.
And whose are those?
These are Pariah pickups, the Pariah Mini Knot, which is the mini humbucker version of the Super Knot. And he did it with small screws. I think he's redone it with those, you know what the Seymour Duncan Invader looks like? I think he's redone it with those Invader screw tops.
Yeah, right.
So really, and sonically, it's really close. Like it's a great solution, and that's from Pariah.
Are they brushed?
Yeah,
they look great.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, he does. He's kind of, it's like a Detroit, Canada kind of situation over there. I think he built these in Canada.
Detroit, Windsor. Yeah.
And he, it's kind of like, how Bare Knuckle is really into that design stuff. He's into the design thing too. He does a lot of that custom stuff, but he does a lot of these, remaking a reverential pickup, like a signature pickup, like the signature the Pound Cake and the the various pickups from the various eras of Van Halen and stuff like that. Cool. So he was up for this project, and he did a great job.
Well, you've got that in your hands, and like I promised that we would go out of order. I love the look of that Floyd substitute that you've got on there, and that is a flat mounting Floyd-like bridge. Yes,
it's a Floyd Rose product.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, okay. It has the Floyd Rose logo on it. I don't know if it's still in production, but you can find them all over eBay.
Yeah.
And it's called the FRX.
Wow.
And it there is where the stud for the tailpiece would be.
I'm leaning in like I can look into your room there. Like
that's the stud from the tailpiece.
Yeah.
And then the studs for the bridge, the bridge screws have been removed.
Yep.
And it's
Did it come with the headstock locking bit too?
Yeah, and that there's no modification required. That screws on right behind the nut.
Well, yeah,
and it uses the screws from the truss rod cover.
Oh my God, no kidding. So Bill Sanderson's here, friend of Five Watt. Bill Sanderson wants to know if they're still producing the Monkey guitar. My understanding is that the USA production run is still running, is still going. Or let me put it this way. When I was looking up for pictures online, I found lots of brand new ones hanging on the wall places. So the other thing that when I saw that Floyd, I thought this is like the neck dive SG solution, trem solution. Perfect. Like just put a big chunk of metal down there on the bottom of the guitar and your SG is not going to dive on you.
Look, I'll say it again. Neck dive is a wardrobe issue. If you're not wearing, if you're not wearing a proper leather strap that grips the fabric in your clothes.
Oh, I thought you were saying that an SG was a matter of wardrobe anyway. Like if you're not willing to commit to the look, then step away,
That too. I mean, the arguments are not mutually exclusive, right?
That's a good point.
I mean, it's these cats that are wearing those super slick nylon straps and because they're comfortable. No one said you're supposed to be comfortable on stage.
Now we're back to the weight of Les Pauls. What do those guitars weigh?
You think I was comfortable when I did that?
You look really comfortable. You look very comfortable. I mean, just being up there on the end like that, you look very comfortable in your. I actually had to say this to everybody now. And is Jeff in the chat? Let's talk about him. Jeff McErlane. I said I have a picture of Angus and Jeff. You guys go back to school, right? You've known each other since school?
Well, we weren't in school together. We were teaching together at
National Guitar Workshop.
National Guitar Workshop, yeah.
Right. And I said I have this picture and you guys both have long hair. And he goes, yeah, when we both had hair. And I'm like, well, you have hair. He goes, yeah. Keyword here is both. When we both had hair. So Jeff, when you're listening to this, I know you appreciate it because we talked about this the other day. Anyway, so back to the guitars and the where are we? We're at probably the custom was a pretty short kind of window. I mean, he had that guitar during the recording of Paranoid, right? We have pictures of that, and then he had it on the road, and then it disappeared. Like he just either stopped using it or was stolen. We're not sure, is what I read.
Yeah, I don't know too much. I mean, the interesting thing, and I wish I had this website, maybe Beve can look this up.
Oh, I'm sure he can.
There's some luthier who built a recreation of the John Birch guitar, and in that recreation, he 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 shows the back of it, and the back of the black John Birch guitar is one big cover. It's like pickguard material screwed on to like the entire back of it, and there was some notion of it being a way to quickly swap the pickups out or something like that. But that's definitely, I looked at the footage, and I'm pretty sure it's definitely the guitar he was playing when I first saw Sabbath on the Mob Rules tour. And I think that the other thing, if we talk about the tone through the years, and I want to give a shout out to I believe his name is Steve Reese at Does It Doom. If you folks, he has some videos about the early, all the eras of Sabbath tone, and the way that Tony set his amp and the pedals, and he even makes a pedal that's supposed to emulate everything, and really cool stuff. So if you're really interested in this, you want to take a deeper dive, you can check out Does It Doom. There's also this guy that built this replica of the black guitar. But Keith and I were talking about the amps, and we talked about how he famously lost the modified treble booster that he had used, modified Rangemaster, I believe it was, that he had used.
An original Dallas, right? That was modded, right? Yep.
All throughout his career. And if we some love for Does It Doom right here. Does It Doom is sick. Yes, absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
Very, yeah, these guys would know.
And so that I believe Doc Stillwell came in with Ronnie and Martin Birch from, over from the Rainbow side of the fence.
Right.
I think and that's where it was kind of like, yeah, let's just get you set up with some Marshalls. Cause I mean, if you worked for Blackmore.
Well, and and that's when what was the record when they came over, because that's the record we're so Heaven and Hell. Supposedly that's when he used a modded 1959, super lead. And so I didn't know the Laney, lineage well. And I was telling Angus that I went in and did some research, and the reality is that the Laney supergroup was a whole lot like a 1959 Marshall. And supposedly that Doc did a couple of mods, added a master volume on the amp, underwater, and then also added another whole tube, we assume preamp gain stage to the front end, which is interesting because that kind of runs contrary to some of the stuff you were saying earlier, where he would plug into the low input and then run everything up and pull the bass back down. And we were talking about that. It was really fascinating, actually, that I didn't know that Laney's were so close. And I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute, but
so this is the 30-watt reissue that Laney put out in the last few years, and it is a little bit it's hard to dial in, and it doesn't play well with my resistive load, so I couldn't turn it up and kind of get it to really do the thing I wanted to do. And maybe that's just this, because it's a reissue. But I know that people are getting some good results with it. It's a very dark amp. It kind of reminds me more of a JTM 45 than my, my main amp here is this 1987X, which is a 50-watt plexi style. I think it's technically a metal panel style, but this is the subject of my most watched video on YouTube. The plexi is a harsh mistress. It's also responsible for taking a good deal of the high end out of my hearing. So, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. The 1987X, this is a beautiful amp, and it made a big difference in my life and my playing, because one of the great things about these non-master volume circuits is that it leaves you no hiding place whatsoever. You are naked to the world with all of your mistakes, and it benefits your playing substantially. As I said, this was much darker, but I just really noticed this thing with the bottom end on the Laney, and I think that that's something that you get that is different than most of the Marshall amps of the time. I don't know if it's a phase inverter thing. I don't know what the deal is there, but it was the bottom end and using the treble booster, whether it was modified or not. It started to make sense to me. So that's when I set up my presets in the fractal. I kind of dialed the amp in so it was pretty dark and still kind of loose in the low end. Yeah. And then I used the treble booster box on there in order to get it into the
let's come back to that. Let me do it's 4:30. Let me do my ish ad if everybody's would let me do that. And then I want to talk more about the amps, because the other interesting thing was kind of like Marshall coming from Bassman, there were very specific differences in the Laneys that led to the tones that they were. And then there's the whole what is a treble booster thing, which is really critical to this conversation anyway. So let me quickly do my midstream spot here. 5 Watt World live streams brought to you with the support of Ish Guitars. Ish stocks a carefully curated set of brands, including PRS, Dingwall, Martin, Spectre, Strandberg, Music Man, Gretsch, Federa, Heritage, Ritter, Ibanez, Taylor, Vox, and Victory, just to name a few. Since opening its doors in 2014, Ish has grown to be one of the top PRS private stock and wood library dealers in the world. That's actually what's brought me back down on my knees with some PRS guitars here, expensive ones. They also deal in vintage pieces, having had a 1960 Burst this last year and a 56 Strat, which my understanding is still there, boys and girls. So if you have to have a 56 Strat, it's still in stock over at Ish. The shop excels in working with manufacturers to carry limited runs of instruments, unique features, woods, colors, you name it. They highlight the fact every instrument's unique, and the unique instruments are worth pursuing. Most importantly, the shop's run by and for musicians. There isn't anybody there that answers the phone that doesn't play guitar, bass, or both. And it's no exaggeration to say that I moved to Syracuse in part because I was looking to be near my family in upstate, but at the same time, I wanted to work with a shop that was doing really interesting things. And I was making a video. The way the story goes is I was making a video about PRS. And at the time, they had the number 5 factory-built PRS guitar ever in stock. And I was like, Ish Guitars, what Ish? What's Ish? You know, I looked it up, and then I ended up going to visit. This is when I was still living in Ithaca, and the guys are just the coolest. So that's Ish Guitars, ladies and gentlemen. So back to amplifiers and how Angus got these amazing tones. So the other thing about somebody put in the chat, super lead to super group. Gee, go figure, right? I love the brain trust that is the chat window. So the other thing I guess that was different was that they used partridge transformers. And so beefier, heavier transformers often give you, more headroom, going to give you more potential bass response, et cetera. So here now you have an amp, which is sort of a step towards high watt, overbuilt transformers, both power, lots of power on tap, lots of output, available to the tubes. So you're going to probably have improved dynamics, improved headroom. And then Tony puts a treble booster, which is cutting the bass back off.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. It maybe there's a bit more. I never in my head had the high watt thing associated with it, but that does make a certain amount of sense. And these are just minor differences. And Tony sounds like Tony, no matter what he plays through. So, and so much of it is that pick attack. I just think there's so much in that. You can
the way that right hand is.
Yeah. And then this has 9s on it in E flat, and the white one has 9s in C sharp. And you really get a lesson in what's going on with that sound once you do that.
Well, you were saying before we went live that one of the big things about it is the just playing in tune. Like you just how hard are you pushing down makes you hyper aware of that. And you even went so far as to say that some people are like, yeah, I can't get that Iommi tone. They're like, yeah, you're playing way too much in tune.
At certain points, there's certain parts of like Iron Man and things where the bass is bending and the guitar is bending. And if you don't have if the bass player's not doing it with you and stuff, you just kind of, and that's the magic of a band, right? That this is the sound that Bill Ward makes on the drums. This is the sound that Geezer Butler makes on the bass. This is the sound that Tony, and that's Ozzy's. And I tell the story all the time that I I distinctly remember the first time I heard Iron Man. I mean, you told an amazing story on the 5 watt episode. But I mean, I remember hearing Paranoid on the radio, and everything is amazing, but Ozzy's voice just straight up the middle, and tell a joke and I will sigh and you will laugh and I will cry. I was just like, but I don't know who this guy is, but he's talking right to me. And and there's so much that's all there, particularly with Iommi in the track. I talk about how I try to emulate Tony's note choices and techniques and styles, and right there in Paranoid, I don't know if this is, you know, it's that bend to the ninth. That, you know, he does it there, and then on volume 4, it's similar. I don't know, I think the position is down here though. It's all that bending to the ninth, and then by the time you get to Mob Rules, he's doing all these things where he's playing the ninth here. He's just kind of always doing it, and now that I'm kind of studying gypsy jazz, I'm like, that's a Django thing, man.
I was going to say it's a Django thing, or it's a Charlie Christian thing. I mean, I always think of, you know, ninths splashed everywhere as a Charlie Christian thing, you know. So that's really funny.
Love him or hate him, Ozzy is spitting facts. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying. That's
always.
Right.
Well, right. I went to see Sabbath on the End tour with Tom, and they were amazing. They're totally amazing. Rival Sons opened. They were amazing.
Oh, cool.
Tommy Clufetos, or I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Amazing. But you know, the thing that no drummer does exactly like Bill Ward is hit the new tempos in each section of a song in Sabbath. Like I love Vinny Appice's drumming, but it was not the same. Just the difference being the way that is on the record, no other drummer is going to hit it the same way they hit it when they were playing with Bill. But Tommy's doing an amazing job, but no matter what job Tommy is doing, Ozzy was still up there doing this to slow him down and doing this to speed him up. I was like, the old man is still calling the shots. Spitting facts and calling shots. That's Ozzy. So I have just love for all. I'm totally nerding out. I hope anybody's enjoying that.
But you need to be alone? No, you're okay. Yeah. All right. Somebody put the question. We had a couple of questions here. Shane from Japan is on the stream. Is it that's dedication, boys and girls? Said Shane, logging on, Fat Philosopher logging on from Hiroshima. Adam Knox wants to know, I put this in a couple of times. I've heard different things about the timing of the finger accident and the relation to down tuning. Could you please clarify if you can? So the finger accident happened, my understanding, like a couple of years before the first record. I mean, before the other bands, et cetera. And actually, I had somebody write to me on Patreon asking me if I had more information on the specifics of the additions that Tony settled on in the long run, because he recently lost the tips of a couple fingers at work himself, and he's looking for information on that. And I said, well, I'd ask, you know, musicians that I knew, you know, what they knew. You know, the world is such that we're probably only 2 phone calls away from Iommi. You know, like you could reach out to Jamie Dixon, a guitarist who reaches out to, you know, such and such who lives next door to Tony, you know, kind of thing anyway. But so we'll try to do that.
So I read his book. It's really good. If you haven't read his book, it's amazing. And we're getting a lot of love for Bill Ward in the chat. Amen. Amen to that. I think that Tony said in the book 2 things, like the thimbles, I don't know what the source material was for the thimbles, but they, you know, he did melt them so that they fit over his hands, and then over his fingers specifically. But then the leather that he glued onto them was taken from this old leather jacket that he just kept cutting little pieces off of for years, and it went from like a whole jacket like down to this.
Very 70s
and I don't know if he you know replaced the jacket with something else, and that it's kind of a ritualistic process. It's part of his I don't know how often he has to replace them, but he does have to remake them. And he sits there kind of with the glue, and the glue is made from a powder, and he kind of like has this whole thing that he has to go through, and because the glue it's a powder based glue and stuff like that. It's always a very suspect looking activity in the hotel room. What's going on over here? I'm just making the thimbles.
Right, exactly. What you could do in there. Paul Crane says it was melted fairy washing up detergent. That feels suspiciously like a Britain thing. I've never heard of that.
A detergent bottle.
Paul,
detergent bottle.
Detergent bottle. Okay. Paul might know. Paul's over there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So
Shane says in his book, Iommi didn't call his music metal. He called it protest rock. Huh. Protest rock. Interesting. It's very interesting. Well, we need to get back to, let's go back to how you created the tones on the record, because there isn't a Laney model and you used a fractal, right?
Yep.
So you ended up using a 1959, which we just said a 1959 is really a super lead, very short step away from a Laney supergroup. So talk about your signal path, and then we'll talk treble boosters as a part of that.
So I think I was just working on my FM3, but I've had a fractal in the house for about 10 years now, since we started using them on Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And the tech that got us using them on the TSO was or is still, and was at the time, James Hetfield's tech. And so I was using an XL2 Plus, and then I got the FM3, and then the TSO moved up to the AXFX3, and I got one of my own. So I can't remember where I started, but I started with the 1959 Super Lead. Now, I had read that Tony plugs into the bass channel and then turns the bass all the way off, but I could not get the fractal model, the normal channel 1959, to do what I wanted it to do. So I used the jumped version, and then but I used very little of the high treble channel.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of did mostly the bass channel, and just a very little with the bass knob rolled off, etc. Then I played around with different cabinets, and just before coming into recording the piece for 5-watt, I switched to the Citrus cabinet, because I just kind of wanted to do something. Apparently he never recorded with the orange amps, but I was just like, I just wanted to do something different than all the Marshall IRs. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing about fractal and a lot of the modeling stuff is that the IR is doing most of the heavy lifting at the end of the day.
And I actually took a shot. Jeff was in the chat for the story about his hair. So to be fair, Jeff has worked with this kind of stuff like you for years, a decade or more. And he's like, I don't care what the name is on the thing. I just like turn the knob, play, turn the knob, play. Oh, that sounds that's what I hear. That's what I'm looking for,
Yeah. Yeah. So I got that, and then and I got it so it had that tubbiness to it. And a lot of times what you have to do to get that where your ear wants it to be is go to the speaker impedance curve in the amp block. There's in the amp block, there's a speaker impedance curve setting, and you just kind of pick around. The joke I have is that it's like going to the optometrist. We were talking about our eyesight earlier, Keith. When you go to the optometrist, they go better or worse, better or worse, better or worse, better or worse, better or worse. So that's kind of what you have to do, unless you want to start to get dirty with parameters. But it's usually, once you start to get dirty with parameters, you've lost a week of your life, and then you come up here, you're like, what did I do? It was better before I started.
Right.
So it's the 1959 Super Lead jumped, with mostly the bass channel, a little bit of the treble channel, the Citrus cab with a 57 and a 160, 57A and the 160A.
Classic.
And then the treble booster. And I don't know how much I idealized the treble booster to make it like, you just start to, because I've been working with the fractals so long, I'm really into the low cut frequency and the high cut frequency and the high cut roll off and like those things. And you have to change them depending on what system you're going into. If there's anybody who wants the super nerdy thing about that, like on the TSO, I think I have the high cut roll off down to like 4K.
That low?
5.1K.
Okay.
It's like as low as you can go before it starts to really affect the audible sound.
Right.
It's
Now
like,
you're doing you actually are doing 2 videos about the work that you did on that track, and I will run at the end of this the full minute 45 2-minute track that Angus built for me to use. I'll use that as our outro today so everybody can check it out, but Angus has that up, and I'll put a link in the description here. And then you have 2 videos, one where you're talking about all the different things you're referencing, and then you're also going to talk. Are you going to do the one about how you did the recording and all of that too, which was fascinating? I saw all that original footage.
I may.
But the first one is coming. Yes.
It's a lot. It's a lot. The first one is out, isn't it? The first one premiered this morning.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was right. I apologize.
Oh, sorry. No. It's fine. I'll update the link.
Well, I need a link.
Update the link. Yeah. So yeah, it's all there, and I cover a lot of these moves of Iommi's that right, and that one, a little bit of voodoo, and I didn't really talk about the soloing, so I might like kind of get into that because I went through this whole thing where I learned like the voodoo solo and stuff, and he's doing these. It's so like
Eastern modal thing going on there.
It's like chromatic, and the phrasing is super weird, and then like the Mob Rules solo is super hard to learn because like you don't know how much of it is punched.
Oh, you chopped up.
Like it winds up sounding really cool, but like to what degree was it? You don't know how much of it was comped. Or it's like, yeah, that all works, But it's like to try and learn it, you're like,
yeah,
wow. And he's he doesn't play it that way live, so it leaves you with that open question.
Yeah. So you pulled it out that Laney actually has a TI Tony Iommi. I see.
That's a Black Country Customs TI Boost.
That's a professional. He's got it right at hand, boys and girls. There you go.
And it has
too.
It does great. It has like these. It has a low and high, but there's they're detented in the middle, so you can leave them at 5. And there's kind of an original operation version of it, and then there's you can go idealized if you want to. Yeah. But it's a cool line. Yeah, it's a Laney. It's a Laney box. Yeah. And I think there's a demo online of the throwback treble boost, throwback range master. I think it's called the Strange Master or something like that.
The guys at Throwback Pickups did a range master.
Yeah, and the guy that demos it plays like 90% Sabbath riffs, and it sounds insane.
I'm not surprised. John at Throwback has amazing ears. So
yeah, that is just like, I was like, that's insane. That's the sound. I want to buy that.
We got 10 minutes left. I don't want to not talk about. He ends up coming the long way around. He plays the Diggins guitars. He plays. He has this flirtation with custom builders, and then somebody put in the comments on the video that he's gone on record as saying he never really kind of gelled with the Eggle guitars, the John Patrick Eggle guitars, even though he owned a bunch, and he ended up selling them as a group to a place that had the pictures that I had online. But he ends up back at Gibson doing a signature pickup for a custom guitar that Ribeloff built with the modified Floyd, but before the one kind of thing that they have there. The interesting thing was you said that those pickups were you'd understood that those were voiced with Birch pickups.
Yeah, he says that in the Epiphone promo video.
Right, you said you saw that.
That like he helped Gibson design that pickup based on another pickup. He doesn't reference who made the other pickup.
Oh, is there another pickup?
Yeah. So I think that that's what that was about. But I did read about that he took that in. They didn't have a lot of time to do it, but the guy identified some internal phase issue in the pickup that he replicated in the Gibson pickup. So it's very possible that they do an amazing job, but they don't have the that's the look. Like I was like, that's the look. So this is a combination of kind of three looks. It's the monkey with the dots and the small pickguard and the wraparound, and then it's the black guitar with the 2 rows of 2 9-screw pickups, and then it's the old boy. Because now, so when we were going over it, like I know that the minutia is fascinating of all these other guitars and the flirtation with BC Rich and the Eggle and other and the JD guitars from the Born Again era with the other headstock and stuff like that. And he doesn't play any of them anymore. He
Right.
just plays the Gibsons and the old boy and maybe one other JD guitar. I don't know why he gave up the John Birch guitar specifically, but obviously he liked the JD one better.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's it, right? It's the monkey guitar, the black guitar, the old boy, and one of the original white guitar and the newer white one with the Floyd. And there's a black one with a Floyd as well.
Right.
And like that's it. I mean, those are the ones he likes to play. Those are the ones I'm interested in.
Right. And those signature pickups were done in 97. They came out with their I think the signature guitar not long after that. And we were talking, and I said that when I talked to John at Throwback, he reminded me that the first humbucking pickups that Seth Lever built at Gibson didn't have pole pieces. They were just solid like that. And he builds a pickup that's like that. And the guys in marketing said, oh, we need adjustability. That was the thing, in 1958, 57, they needed adjustability. And so, they added that, which is pretty interesting, with a pretty flat radius fingerboard, like a 12-inch that you would need to ever so tiny, arcing or whatever, like crazy.
Well, some techs just do that. Let's in the chat. I mean, this is a good question for this room. What's everybody's take on like those standard adjustments to the Les Paul pole pieces, the ones that all the techs do?
Or how many of us never touch them, kind of a thing.
I don't. I just get it back from a tech and it's like changed. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so much more mid-range. Adam Knox wants to know if either of us have ever played the Epiphone Monkey SG. I haven't even handled them, but people hear me say this all the time. I don't go to guitar stores on purpose. So
I have to say I'm very impressed with a lot of the Epiphone stuff. I know that there are significant differences, but for signature models, I have the Brent Hines V, and it looks great.
Yeah,
it sounds pretty good. I had to swap the pickups, but it's got Duncans in it now, so it sounds good.
Cool. Let's see, you got questions here? Jeff Mackerlane says he has his own proprietary pole piece settings. They're probably for sale on his website, though. So
call Stu Mac for the gauge.
That's right. Stu Mac always reaches out to me. I'm like, I don't know what we could do together. I'm not a repair guy. I couldn't begin. You don't want me with tools near your guitar. I'm not the guy. I don't. Anyway, Brighton is reminding us that the Epi Monkey is about $800, on the street. I don't know if they're building those in Indonesia, but I've just been really, really impressed with guitars coming out of the big Court factory, especially once the Court factory went in the direction they have, where different companies have their own wing. I mean, essentially a factory within a factory, which is kind of what the Gibson Custom Shop is, or the Fender Custom Shop. Those are the size of guitar companies, from a decade ago. Those shops put out tons of guitars. They're smaller. I was, doing the Mosrite video, and I was reading that he had done this apprenticeship at Rickenbacker, and they were kind of making it sound like Rickenbacker and then Mosrite became big guitar manufacturers. Well, Rickenbacker's really never changed away from the 1950s model. There was so much handwork on backers. There's just on Ricks. There's just it's very much the way guitars were built around 1963. Still, which is why they're so expensive and why there's so few of them on the street. So it's pretty, that's a really interesting thing, that this has gone in this direction. And I just think both the newest, Strandbergs I have and the other ones, both generations of those were out of that factory in Indonesia. It's amazing. So
If we can go fully into this just for a second and talking about SG specials. So this is originally a 2019 SG special, and the main difference between it from a design standpoint and the more expensive ones from the custom shop and the higher end is a higher end SG specials is the location of the bridge pickup. The location of the bridge pickup is closer to the bridge here than it is on the real whatever year it's from.
Based on the
Yeah,
61 special.
whatever it's based on. Yeah, that pickup is there, and you can see that on the Monkey guitar. It's not here. It's more there, and for that reason, this pigtail bridge is actually backed off of the studs slightly, just so I can get the strings in and out.
Because you don't nerd out about stuff like that. That's not the kind of thing that would keep you up at night. It's good to know that about.
But this luckily is fully adjustable. It has two pneumatic saddles on every single
push it back
string. So it's totally it's able, and this is locking. These are screwed down, so it's really stable. But this guitar, you can get, and at the time I got this, it was only available in Pelham blue and some other color that I didn't really fancy. But they put it out in black in like 2020, I think.
Oh, they did
like that. So you could get a black one and then order these pickups, and you'd have something pretty close. Or you can get a black one and get the mini knots from Pariah, and the pigtail bridge.
You'd be 90% of the way there.
Yeah. So it doesn't, I don't think it takes quite as much. I mean, obviously those more expensive Gibsons are going to be somewhat better made wood and everything like that. When this one was stripped, I realized it was a 3-piece body, so he couldn't do a
transparent finish or something.
Yeah, he worked around it. The guy that did this is a genius. Joe Reggio. Reggio Guitars is a complete genius. He's up in the Northwest and does work kind of comparable to historic makeovers and those kind of.
So he was replicating that finish. We were joking before the stream started, at a certain time, or just generally replicating it, not to show the seams of the two seams and stuff.
Yeah, I think that the main thing, and it's beat up looking,
great,
but I think the main thing when you look at the old boy is along the top here.
Yeah,
you can, if you see it like that. And I just got so used to seeing pictures of Tony with that coloring on there that I was just kind of stuck in my head as being part of the thing. So it's like a, it's like a what if guitar. I don't know.
Right. Brighton wants to know how they wants to know how they made it look relict. Relicking is like one of the things people rarely talk about there.
Go to Joe Reggio's site. Go to Reggio Guitar's site, and you'll see. He makes Strat style guitars and Telly style guitars, but he does refinishing work, and it's super legit.
Right.
He's absolutely top of the heap. Yeah.
Mr. Mont is replying to Burnt Gerbil, saying that the other way to kind of pull it away there is to mess with the pole pieces. We were talking about pole pieces, that you could lower the treble to make it sound like it's further away from the saddles as well. That's interesting. You got a couple of different ways you could kind of go chasing those tones. So
yeah, I don't know how much you can adjust these screws. They don't really qualify as pole pieces.
Right. Oh, okay.
It's like,
yeah,
but I'm just, anyway, if you're it's an interesting thing at my age, shall we say, to be chasing to be chasing a passion project that has to do with your relationship that you had to music during your burn-in, during the 13 to 15.
During your burn-in.
Yeah.
I like that. I've never heard that applied that way. I love that. That's because if you build amplifiers, you turn them on and you run them for like 40 hours, then you can hear a big difference. And we call it burning burning in the amp. So.
Yeah, but it just kind of burns on your soul.
And your burn-in. I'll be quoting you in a future video. Great. Or as Angus would say, during your burn-in period. So
and so then it was just kind of like, but I'm, I have my own career as a musician. I didn't feel comfortable just getting like the cross inlays and the whole bit. I kind of wanted to do something that I spoke, that it was all the elements of what he was that how he made his music that spoke to me, and I kind of put it into one guitar.
Which is kind of, I mean, that's
fun.
a great wrap up here. It's kind of what happens, as you said, burn in, but as you digest a hero like that, that's exactly what happens. Is what's happening in that guitar is what happens in the way you play or reference him at all. It's all getting stirred together, and the years get, you know, stirred together too. So that's perfect. The guitar is a perfect representation of how Tony got into your soul. Ooh, I'm getting poetic here at the end. It must be time to get off.
Exactly. I think we'll just wrap. I have one Tony Iommi story that's worth telling. I don't know how many people are here, but the
A bunch.
so when in '95, my second year touring with Guitaro, the lighting designer on the tour had worked with Tony and was friends with him, and we were in Omaha, Nebraska, on my birthday, and one of the other techs came to get me and said, "Angus, you have a phone call." And so I walked. There was a payphone behind the stage, and if anybody doesn't know what a payphone is, something we used to have in the world.
Google it.
And he says, "Yeah, it's a call for you." And I say, "Hi, hello," and it's "Hi, is this Angus?" And I was like, "Yeah." "Oh, well, this is Tony Iommi." And I was like, "Hello, sir." And he says, "Yeah, I'm a friend of Dale's, and Dale tells me it's your birthday today. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. I hope you're doing well. I hear you're crushing it out there, and I hope all's well with you." And I was just like, "Wow, thanks. It's so great to talk to you. You're such an inspiration." But I've never, but that still is a very special memory for
That's
me.
great.
So yeah.
That's a great Iommi closer. All right. Well, hey, I want to remind everybody, thank Angus for being here so much. Had a lot of fun. We are going to do probably going to do one on the Brian May Red Special, a video on that in the future. We're not sure when that's going to get scheduled, but sometime in the future. I've started the research on that, and then we'll get Angus back to tell me all the things I got wrong, and or maybe we could front load that.
And it's like I toured with Mark Martel. We went down to Australia, and I started getting messages from guys, "Are you using this kind of phase shifter?" And I was like, "I'm using an amplifier 12." Like, and it was like, "What?" They were so mad at me.
Right. That's funny. Well, people love to nerd down, and so do we. So we can't really say anything about it. So thanks again, Angus. We will have you back on the next time we do one together for sure. Thanks again for doing this, and everybody go check out. I will make sure that the links are over here. Go check out Angus's channel. Check out the video on this, and I'm going to use the clip of him playing the full track. And bonus points to anybody who puts in the comment all the different tunes that he's referencing, because they are mashed together at such a rate as to confuse the copyright gods, and is genius. So I really appreciate it. So thanks again, Angus. All right. All right. I'm taking, this is my, here we go. All right. So thanks everybody. I want to remind everybody that to go and look for the links for Ish Guitars in the description. Until next time, thanks to everybody for being a part of 5 Watt World. Really enjoyed it today. Always laugh hard when these guys have such great stories. I'm going to move this to the stream, and I'm out. Thanks.